Welcome to Own Your Peace, the podcast where we're diving into some of my favorite topics. This is my first inaugural launch podcast episode. So I'm really excited to kind of lay the foundation and really allow you to kind of know what's ahead and what my intentions for this podcast are. If I'm being honest, this has been on my heart and my mind for quite a while. Full transparency, I've been terrified to do this. It's really scary to put yourself out there in this big of a way. And as we go throughout this podcast and as you learn more about me and my piece of the puzzle, some of my biggest wounds that I have that I'm here based on my birth chart are to overcome my fear of being seen and putting yourself out there all by yourself in a podcast format. This will also be going on YouTube as well, is terrifying. It was really easy for me for many years. If you've been following me for any amount of time, you know that I started back in 2013 as a blogger, and I was a health and wellness blogger. So it was just me putting out amazing recipes that my family loved and enjoyed, that were healthy, that were good for us. It was me testing detoxes, those seem to be what made me go viral from the very get-go. Because I wanted to be like that, like back in the life commercial days where it's like, oh, give it to Mikey, let him try it. That was kind of the vibe that I was going with for those first blog posts, is like, let me try it. Let me kind of fill it out for you. And let me give you my honest truth and my honest opinion on how this viral recipe actually works. So that's where I started. And I started that back in 2013 because at that time, I came home from working full time as a registered principal, where I went and supervised other financial advisors and made sure their trades were fair and correct for their clients. So nobody liked seeing me. So my main job was to go in and audit offices of financial advisors and look over their trades, look over their files to make sure everything was in compliance to SEC regulations. So, yeah, nobody likes an auditor. So I would walk into an office. People were terrified that I was there. And honestly, for me, it was just I really don't want to find anything. I want to make sure that you're up to par and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing to protect these clients and making sure that your trades are in alignment with what their goals are and their age brackets and their all the things. So yeah, so that's it's kind of been a full circle moment for me that I graduated high school. I went straight into work where I worked for Charles Schwab. I worked there for several years as a trader myself. I worked up to working with the platinum team, where you had to have at least $10 million invested with Charles Schwab to talk to me, to walk you through trades. And so it was really fun from the get-go for me to talk to these people who had so much money, because I grew up with zero money. We never had any money. We were poor. So it was this weird dichotomy for me to come from really not having a whole lot growing up, and then talking to these people who had 10, 20, 30 million dollars invested with Charles Schwab, and they were the most kind. And I had so much fun talking to the clients who were regulars, who always wanted to call and check on their portfolios. They would want to make daily trades. And it was this beautiful time where I learned that you weren't necessarily a jerk because you had money. These people were very kind. They would send me thank you cards. They always loved talking to me and checking in on my life. And it was this really cool thing where I learned that money is abundance. It's not something that's scarce and that's hard to come by. That was my first taste of really seeing wealth front and center in my life. Obviously, I went to a high school where there was lots of wealth. I was not that, but I had friends who had lots of money. But that was the first ingrained moment for me as an adult woman, transitioning from high school and going to school full time at night and then working full time, as I tried to build my career as a financial advisor and a registered principal. And then I continued to work for Charles Schwab until I met my beautiful husband, who I have been married to for almost 24 years. He will definitely be making appearances on this show. So just if you know my Kelly Ray, he's a hoot, and he is a Man-Gen Gemini, Virgo moon, Virgo rising, with so much energy for talking and telling a good story. So he will definitely be making an appearance on the show. So I met him, we married. I continued to work for Charles Schwab for about a year and a half. They continued to move me up where I worked for that platinum team. And then I also worked for a private select branch, which was a physical office for people in the Scottsdale area who had that type of wealth to come in and meet with an advisor in person. So I would do that as well. So they had me take my series 8 and 9 so that I could become a supervisor and continue that course of action. So I was on this track to become a manager at Charles Schwab, which I loved. I absolutely loved the financial world. I grew up watching the nightly business report with my dad and really being fascinated by the world of finance and how money made the world go around. Like I said, I didn't have a lot of money and our family was definitely not well off. We were comfortable, but not well off. We would still facilitate between being super poor, where we had to get assistance for groceries, to being at a place where we were comfortable. We had groceries, we had, food on the table. We always had a roof over our head. And I have to give that to my parents for all that they had been through and for all the challenges that were placed before them. We always had food. It might have been like eggs for a week, but we had food and we had a roof over our heads. And I'm so grateful for that tenacity that they always provided on some level for us. So I never went without, even though it might not have been much. And we bought clothes at garage sales and, thrift stores, but we always had it something. And I got really good at like finding cool pieces. And so that's part of this journey that I've been on. And so I worked for Charles Schwab, married Kelly. We lived in Arizona, where I'm from, for about a year and a half before we decided that it was time for Kelly to get serious about his career and his goals for the future and what he would like to do. And when we got married, he was going to be a dentist. So we were like, okay, well, let's get you into pre-dental school. Idaho State University has actually a really fantastic pre-dental program. And that's where my Kelly Ray is from. He is from Idaho. So we decided to take a huge, for me, I was like leaving behind this really interesting trajectory towards a career in finance, and where a lot of people were really kind of had their eyes on me for making waves, moving up the career ladder, if you will. So with that, we decided it was the right choice to like put my career on hold with Charles Schwab and move back to Idaho so that Kelly could go to school so that he could get into the dental program. The original plan, if you are married to a manifesting generator, you know that there are no plans. You make plans and then they shift, they pivot, and things end up totally different and a wild ride. So at the time, our plan was that we were going to move back to Idaho. Kelly was going to go to Idaho State University, get his undergraduate in pre-dental, and then he was going to apply to go to Crichton, which is in Nebraska, to go to dental school because that's the best dental school there is. At the time, that's what that was our plan. So we got married, we moved, we lived like I said, we lived in Arizona for a couple of years, and then we moved to Idaho, where he started the pre-dental program at ISU. I got a job for American Express at the time in their financial department, where I became a full-fledged financial advisor. I got a book of clients that I inherited that I would start meeting with his clients and helping them with their financial goals. So that was kind of like where we were at. And it was this beautiful time. We were newlyweds. We were so in love. We got our first apartment. Well, we got our first apartment in Arizona, but we moved, we did the whole thing. And for the first time in my life, I was away from my family, and I was in not warm Arizona weather. It was terrible. I hated the cold. I still hate the cold. I don't know why I live in Utah, honestly. That was this time. And he continued to go to school. And about a year and a half into his pre-dental program, we decided pre-dental's not for him. We're not going to do this. So he shifted gears and went into social work because he wanted to get into really helping people. If you know my Kelly, he has the biggest heart and he is always looking at other people. So for him, it made sense for him to go into social work, where he could really use that big heart of his to really help other people. So he went into that. He ended up getting his master's degree in social work. So he has a master's degree in social work. And he worked in that industry for quite a while. We had children 1, 2, and 3. And we grew this little family of ours. And I continued to work for American Express, that's turned into Ameriprise. I continued to be a financial advisor, continued to build my book. And then I shifted gears out point in time where instead of, being a financial advisor full time, I became that registered principal where I would have to go and audit the offices and make sure everybody was doing what they were supposed to and taking really good care of their clients. So that was the trajectory that we were on. And then Kelly graduated, master's degree. We bought a beautiful house. Everything was going according to our plan. And you know what happens when they say when you make plans, God comes in and laughs, right? So that's really what happened. So it was during the time of Obamacare, and my husband would go in and he would be able to bill for something one week, and the next week he would not be able to bill for the same thing. So we saw the writing on the wall that things were shifting and changing within that industry. And a lot of the things that people depended on to be covered and the work that my husband did would no longer be covered by Medicaid. And that was a lot of his clientele was Medicaid clients. So we knew we had to think differently. And at that time, my brother-in-law had started a new company, and he's like, I would love at some point in time, I'm going to get his birth chart. I'm going to go over it because he is a very interesting soul. I love my brother-in-law, but I want to know what his human design is, and also his astrology chart. I'm like so dang curious. That's the line one of me. I just need to know. I have guesses. But anyways, he's always been this person that like anything he touches turns to gold. So we knew that if he started a new company and Kelly was in at the ground level, that there would be a lot of opportunity for growth for Kelly in that career. So he decided at that point in time that he was going to leave the social industry and move over to working for a solar company. And so that's where we started. He started working for, at the time it was Vision Solar. We had to sell our house, and our house that we were going to live in forever. It was our forever home. Haha, again, making him laugh. And then we moved to Nevada, and we lived in Las Vegas for about a year and a half while he was working for the solar company. And then we moved to Utah. So we have actually been in Utah for almost 10 years. And again, during this time, we're raising kids. I started the blog. When he decided to go full time in social work, that's when I decided it was time for me to come home and be with the kids full time and raise a family. And that is when I started the blog. That's when this whole trajectory shifted from me being career oriented, working full time, living in corporate America, to being a stay-at-home mom. And for me, again, going back, we will dive into a lot of birth chart stuff because my goodness, that is where the gold is at. And for my birth chart, one of them, my North Node is in the 10th house. So it is in movement towards building something of stature. It is building a career. It is a lot of my life focus is in the career world. It's in building something for myself of substance. So that is when I came home. I love my children dearly. They are my world. There's nothing I love more than being a mom. But for me, just being a mom ain't it. I have to have, and a lot of you, I'm sure, totally get this. Like you love being a mom. It's your whole heart and your whole soul, but you can't just be a mom. You've got to have a side hustle. You've got to have something that's yours. And that's where I was. And that's when I created Maybe I Will, which was my blog. And I started this beautiful work of creating something, but I was always hiding. I was always hiding behind written words. There's a whole different thing between putting pictures of yourself out there and then hiding behind them and not actually being on video or talking and connecting to people in real life. Well, not real life, but obviously in video format, YouTube channels, and that stuff terrified me. And I really feel like that's a lot of where my wounds lie. And we'll talk about I'm really excited to have guests on the show where we talk about where their wounding's at and really helping them to see what's been holding them back, because it's all in your chart. I also grew up in the, very not super strict, but very loving Mormon household. So I have a lot of really beautiful stories within the Mormon faith, but at some point in my life, that no longer was a part of my story. So it was something that I had to shift out of. So we'll talk about how even in my birth chart, it tells the story of me leaving behind the faith of my family and finding my own kind of niche, my own way of looking at the world in a religious, spiritual way. And that's what I kind of want to talk about today is we each have our own story. We each have our own unique way that we're meant to the world, to move through the world. That's where the whole idea of own your piece, and I spell it correctly. There's not a misspelling there. I on purpose spelled it like a piece of a puzzle, not like own your piece, but here's the beautiful thing. When we own our piece, that beautiful part of who we are, I honestly believe that this world with 8 billion of us, each of us is meant to be unique. Every single one of us is supposed to be individual. Yes, we are all here together. Yes, we are all a part of something bigger than ourselves. And you are in me and I'm in you, and all the mirroring and all the, this we talk about in spirituality, how like we're all piece of God. But we're all here to play a very unique role in the way that we move through the world. And that is why I know a lot of my Christian friends and people that I grew up with within the Mormon faith look at me and think that I have gone crazy, because for a lot of years, astrology, the tarot, and, I didn't even know human design existed, but those things that are kind of like outside the realm of Christianity kind of have shade. There's like this, they're of the devil. They're not good. They're not of the light is probably the best way to say it. But here's what I've come to find out in the work that I've been doing and working with hundreds of beautiful souls at this time. And I'm so proud to say that, because every person I meet is so amazing. And I love helping them, guide them back to these beautiful gifts that they were given at birth. And that's what it is. If you're Christian or you're God-fearing or you believe in God, I can't imagine a God who would, just from this standpoint, I know a lot of you are like non-denominational, you believe in like a universal energy, whatever. I can't imagine us being placed on this earth, whether you believe in a God or universal intelligence, that would just plop us here and not give us any guidance, no tools to help us. We're just flailing. Obviously we have parents who help us and raise us and teach us how to like do this human thing. But I can't imagine a world where there's not something that gives us individualized help on our path and our soul's contract. Because every single one of us is an individual who is here for a purpose. And some of us are here to be like pranksters and have fun and like start the party. And there's some of us who are here to be a little bit more philosophical and to see things differently. There's people who are here to clean toilets and really love cleaning. There's people who love teaching. There's people who love playing sports. We each have a unique piece of the puzzle. And how we get in our own way here is that we think we have to show up a specific way, or the only way to make money is by XYZ. Like we have to be this, or this. And really, there's no other way to make money except by doing these things. But here's the beautiful thing. When we look at astrology, when we look at human design, when we look at gene keys, and I have other tools that I love to look at when I'm working with clients, is these are all tools that were given to us. I want you to think about these things, and I'll explain them very differently. I look at human design as this beautiful tool that tells us energetically how we're meant to move through the world. It helps us understand how our energy interacts, if we're here to really like be an energy shaker and mover, or if we're here to kind of be more of that observant who is like here to lead and guide other people and see the energy and more efficient ways to use it. Those who are here to reflect back to us how we're doing as a people, and those who are here to not force, but here to like wake us up and move us in a direction and to like corral us in the way that they're inspired by the universe. And we'll get into what all these things are in all these episodes. I promise we're going on a ride here, folks. But that's what human design is. I want you to think about human design in the context of God written in the stars through very different, unique mythologies, giving you your owner's manual. The moment that you're born, there is a creation of your human design chart. And within that chart is your owner's manual. It's how you best move through the world. It's how you're meant to eat and take in food and information. It is how you are meant to not only survive, because a lot of us here believe that we're here to survive. We're here to move through life with struggle and here to face challenges, and it's nothing but struggle. I honestly think that maybe that might have been the case for several years, but I think we're moving into this new paradigm where it's not necessarily about struggle. It's about how much joy can you handle? How can you thrive? How can you take your gifts that you've been given and become the brightest, shiniest version of yourself? That is what is really exciting to me. And I want you to think about your human design chart as just that. It is your owner's manual. And every single person on this planet has their very own chart that will guide you through life as your owner's manual. Okay, I'm feeling like stuck. I'm feeling like I don't have any movement moving forward. Okay, let's look at your human design chart. Let's look and see what's the flip of your switch to turn you into excitement and joy and play and fun. What's your light switch? How do we turn that part of you on? Let's look at your owner's manual. Let's look at your human design chart. That is what that is. God gave us that. I can say that with because it's so beautiful, and the amount of experiences where I have felt beautiful chills when I'm talking to somebody I'm just reading a chart for, or if we're coaching together, like such soul recognition when they see it and they understand that they are here to make a difference and this is how they do it. And they are able to come back to themselves. I have been told time and time again, oh my goodness, I know you didn't tell me anything I didn't know, but it was life-changing. And that is the beauty of human design, is because, my friend, anything I would tell you during a reading, you absolutely 100% know for yourself. You know this stuff without that, right? It's just this remembrance, this deep soul remembrance that you know this stuff. And it's really exciting for me as I'm talking to clients that they're already doing these things on some level. It makes me giggle. Honestly, I'll be talking to somebody. I'm like, yeah, of course you do that. Yeah, 100% you do. That makes perfect sense to me because I'm looking at their chart as they're talking and I'm like, yep, absolutely. And I can see they're already in alignment on some of these things within their chart because they're already doing it without even realizing it's there, that it's written. So that's what a human design reading does for you. It really just gives you permission slips to lean into these parts of you that are on purpose. Some of these things will feel like they're silly, they make no sense, they're just kind of quirky things about me. But those are absolutely the things that when you lean into them, move the needle in the most exciting ways. Here's an example. One of the things that I love to look at on a human design chart, and every single person I've read for, like I said, at this point, it's been hundreds, they already on some level are living their digestion. And digestion, it's in the arrows. If you're familiar with human design chart, it's one of the arrows. So it really tells you how you take in food and information. And it's really kind of like this thing that turns your brain on and turns your brain off. So it really is that thing that helps us get into higher levels of genius and higher levels of flow state. So for myself, I have a 2 there. So it's taste, and I have closed taste. So for me, my brain and my body function the highest when I have repetition in what I eat. When I eat the same things day in and day out, my brain is kicked into high gear. I am highly focused. I'm highly it is wild how much better my body responds as well as my mind when I eat the same things every day, bar none. So when I lean into this, it makes the biggest difference. And for the longest time, I would go on vacation. This is going to be an overshare, guys. Full transparency. You're going to learn out a little too much about me. Let's be honest. I would go on vacation. And if you go on vacations, if you're like me, you're like, diet's out the window. I'm going to eat all the things. I'm going to try these new things that look delightful. And my whole eating changes when I'm on vacation, or it did. I learned some things. And all of a sudden I was tired. I just wanted to lay on the beach. And I would get, here's where the overshare comes in. I would get backed up. My pipes wouldn't work. It was a hot mess, right? So when I discovered human design and that my body and my digestion works best when I eat the same things, I was like, light bulb moment. When the only time I don't really kind of eat the same, I am a creature of habit. I always have been. And there's like certain foods I'm like, nope, not going to eat it. That if you're a close person, the second you look at something, you're like, yeah, I'm not going to eat that. You just know. There's like no curiosity. You just look at a food and you're like, absolutely not. Does not look good to me. It's a no. If you're open, you're a little bit more curious. You'll probably take a bite of it and be like, yeah, it's good. I like that. Maybe I'll add that to my rotation. But if you're closed, you can absolutely look at something and be like, yeah, no. And I thought maybe I'm just a picky eater. Maybe I should, and I would like have this guilt around not being an adventurous eater. But now I know, because of human design, that's actually 100% accurate for me to be cautious with the food that I eat and keep what I eat very limited and eat very much the same things every day. And when I do that, my, digestion's great, pipes are running nice and tight and clean, and I have no issues. But like the second I would go on vacation and all my like routines were out the window, oh boy, my body did not respond in a good way. So now I know that I try to, like, at least on vacation, I try to eat something similar for like breakfast and lunch as I would do at home. And then maybe kind of like try something different at dinner. And when I do that, I also bring digestive enzymes, some other little cool tricks that I have for you closed digestion people. That does help quite a bit more. So that's just an example of one little thing that was on my personal human design chart that made a huge impact. And it was something I didn't know existed. I thought it was just a weird, like quirky thing about me, but that's an example of how this works. My soul knew that it needed to eat the same things every day. So that's why I would get in a kick and I'd eat like make this oatmeal and I'd make the same oatmeal for like weeks in the winter. And then like in the spring, I'd be like, I'm done with oatmeal. Let me like make some fresh fruit smoothie. And then I'd want to eat that forever. So I would not have a lot of variety in my diet over the seasons. And I would do this. And I thought it was weird that I did it, but like, it's just like, that's what I wanted. So I just listened to myself. But like figuring out that that's absolutely 100% the way that I'm supposed to eat and the way that my brain functions at its highest, game changer. Because now I can lean in and I can get this permission slip. Like, it's okay if I eat the same things every day and that I get my variety over the year, not on a day-to-day basis. So that's one of the beautiful things that human design does. Like I said, I want you to think about human design as your owner's manual. It helps you understand how to own and operate your body, that it was given to you at birth. Now, when we look at astrology, a completely different thing. Yes, there is some overlays here between human design and astrology. Astrology, I want you to think of it as your map. So we've got our owner's manual with human design, and your astrology chart is your map. It's going to tell you where the bumps in the road are going to be, where you're going, what things will impact you throughout your life. And as we look at transits, we can see like, oh my goodness, that transit's in this house. This is going to be a time where you're going to be focusing on this. And the more we pay attention to where the roadmap is taking us, we can lean in and adjust our sails to where we need to go next. So that is I get that question a lot. What is the difference between human design and astrology? And that's the best way for me, in my understanding, to explain it is human design is the owner's manual. Astrology is the roadmap. And then we go one step further, which is another beautiful tool that I like to incorporate when I'm reading for people. And that is Gene Keys, which is it's a kind of a lot more along the lines of human design than astrology. So there is a lot of human design that ties into Gene Keys. And I look at Gene Keys, as I look at that is like a treasure map. It is helping us to unlock things on our journey into our soul's highest levels. So here we go. We got human design, owner's manual, astrology, your roadmap, and then we've got Gene Keys, which is your treasure map to unlocking the highest potentialities that you have open and available to you on Earth. I honestly believe, because they're based on the stars, on the date and time of your birth, they're all based on that input of when you were born. And I do believe that the day and the time that you were born, you chose. You chose the challenges that would come with that astrological chart. You chose that design on your human, like what energies you wanted to work with while you were here. So if we take that from a Christian standpoint, because I know I've got people on both aisles here. I've got people on the Christian side. I've got people who are more spiritual and more woo-woo. So welcome all. This is a place for everyone because this fits for everyone. Whether you believe this is from some higher source of universal intelligence, or if you believe that there is a loving God, Heavenly Father up there, why wouldn't He give us something that is individualized to us to help us on our path? And that is the beauty of what I will talk about on this podcast. It is owning your piece, that little piece of the puzzle. Every single person on this planet has their own piece that they're meant to play. They have their own charts that tell them the map they're going to take, the energy they're meant to move with, and their own unique treasure map. And we have choice. We live in a world of free will. We can look at these tools and be like, yeah, that's all garbage. I'm not going to use it. It's rubbish. And then we don't rely on these things and we wing it. Totally an option. If you think all of this is like, Andy, I'm sorry, I love you, but you're crazy, or I don't love you, I hate you, whatever. That's neither here nor there, right? But I do believe these tools are here to help us. I cannot imagine a world where we would be placed on a planet that has such duality and so much black and white and 1,000 shades of gray, where we didn't have something that we could look to remind us of why we're here, of why our soul's mission, because I believe within every ounce of my being that every single one of us, oh my goodness, I'm getting so emotional right now. Every single one of us is here for a very finite reason. And we have made contracts. We have promised on a soul level that we would show up in a certain way and we would have things that we would need to go through for our soul's progression. So why wouldn't we get a little peek under the hood of how we can best do that? How we can remind ourselves once we've passed over, because once we get here, like, I don't know how much remembrance we have as a baby. Like, I would love to go back to my babiness and how much we actually remembered from life before this lifeline for this lifetime. And when does it actually start to fade and we start to forget why we're here? So that's the journey we're on with this Own Your Peace podcast, because I guarantee you, we are meant to own our piece. We're here to play our part, whatever that is. So when we step into soul alignment and we really use these tools to remember why we're here and to start showing up and as our soul intended to do, that's where the peace, see, I did that little wordplay there. That's where our peace comes from. That's where true joy lives. I want you to take a pause wherever you're at. If you're driving, obviously still keep paying attention. But I want you to think about your life. Kind of just play it through your mind. And I want you to think about a time that you were you felt like you were living on purpose, you were living with intentionality, and you had joy and beautiful inner peace within your heart and within your body. And I guarantee you that the times that you felt that within your life was a time that you were in alignment with what your soul's doing. Whether that was you were, doing something that totally lit you up, that's 100% why you're here. And I want you to take away that has to be some big thing. Not every single one of us is meant to be president of the United States. Not every one of us is meant to lead huge movements and be like a Martin Luther King. We can shape and change the world within the walls of our own home, within our small communities. But every single one of us has a purpose here. And when we're living that purpose, that's when that peace, that joy, that love, everything that we seek finds us when we are doing that. So that's what this podcast is all about. So if you love it and you're on hey, I'm here for it, welcome. We are going to have a lot of fun here. We will talk about all the things. And here's the thing, I will not gatekeep. My biggest pet peeve, I don't know if you feel this too, but I get so annoyed when I'm listening to a podcast and they're talking about like a specific placement, like your Jupiter placement, this is the place we're supposed to be look and have, where things kind of are easier for you. And then they like only cover like 2 or 3 signs or 2 or 3 house placements. I'm like, well, like you didn't even talk about me. And that's where there'll be no gatekeeping. I will tell you all the things. There'll be no gatekeeping because I know that if you really do want a very holistic look at all the things on your chart, then you're going to come see me and we'll do a reading and we'll talk about all the things together and how they tie together. That I cannot do in this format, but I can tell you, like, look at this placement. I really want you to look at this placement. Here's what it means if it's here. This is what it means if it's here. And I will give you all the tools you need to understand that specific placement, or that, if you're a manifestor, I'm going to go deep on what it means to be a manifestor and how you can be the best manifestor that you can be. There'll be no gatekeeping on that part. So get excited. I'm not going to be like, oh, there's just like these 2 little things about being a manifestor that you need to know. If you want more, buy this program. Like, clearly I have a family to provide for. I have goals. I have financial goals. I want this to be a resource where you learn these things by listening every week. I want you to always have tools that you can actually listen to a podcast and have something that you can take action on from the get-go without having to buy a thing. Obviously, I'm going to be total transparency. I'd love if you buy my things. I'd be lying if I didn't. But again, there's no gatekeeping here. You'll get lots of really great information. I would love for you to share these episodes. I would love you to, join me on all the socials so that you can help me or help yourself learn and grow. That's why I'm here. It's an interesting thing when you see people put podcasts out there or when you see them create social media content. Some of them are out there for their own personal gain, and that's fine. And I have total respect for that because, yeah, we're doing this human thing. We got to earn the money to pay the bills. So I respect that. My intention is always to be a resource. I do what I do for you. And if you like what you hear, and if you feel a connection to me as a projector, I'm here to guide. So if you want to join me for like some one-on-one coaching so I can help guide you to the next level, yeah, great, let's do it. But I always want you to have tools that you can take with no entry point. It's here for you. That's why I do what I do, because I want every single person on these tools that we have. They are available to you. You can go on ChatGPT, you can go on Pinterest, you can find all these things, but I wanted to be able to present it in a way. And this is, again, going back to my piece of the puzzle, one of my greatest gifts that I see on my own birth charts is the way that I can teach, the way that I can take complex concepts and break it down so it's easier for you to understand and to make it like something that you can actually use. Like my North Node's in Virgo. So I've got like this ability to, hone in on details and really like be very practical in the way that I move through the world. Then I also have the South Node in Pisces, which is very mystical. It's very spiritual. So my whole like mission, if you will, is to bridge the practical with the spiritual and help you, because I'm sorry, spiritual friends, sorry, practical friends, you need both. You need to be able to embrace the practical side of life. We're here. We have to do the human thing. We got to pay our bills. We have to do those things. And then on the other side of that, we have our spiritual side, our soul essence. And we need that too. And we need to learn how to integrate these in a new and exciting ways. So that's kind of what this podcast is. Yes, I'll talk about the tangible, practical, here's some tools that you can use to get ahead and make something of yourself and really use them in a real tangible way. But I will also show you ways to use them on a spiritual level to really get more in alignment with your soul and what your soul would like you to do. So that's the exciting thing. So I feel like that is a great first episode where you can kind of get a little hint of what we're doing here on the podcast. Much love, and we'll see you next week.